Good evening. It is Vicky and Stu with Pop Astro Live. And this evening it is space art and hygiene on Mars. Stu, you're talking about hygiene on Mars. What is that? Give us a little teaser.
It's important to wash your hands if you're going to Mars, and what that means. How do we not contaminate another planet? How do we stop potential Mars bugs coming to Earth? And what are the real consequences of all of that?
Excellent. Okay, so we're just going to give people a couple of seconds to join the feed. I'm going to play the countdown video, and then we're going to hit the planet's surface running at light speed. Okay, is that such a thing? Okay. Oh, do you know what? I absolutely love this because it's one of the only jobs legitimately where you can interrupt yourself with Facebook comments. So they're already flooding in. The comments are. Let's have a look. Good evening, Vicky and Stu from the wonderful Kath, who's a big active part in the SPA. Do you know Kath?
I do, yes. Yeah. We're connected on various social media. Absolutely.
That would be weird if you didn't know Kath and you were a British astronomer. Good. Oh, Steve Salmon's watching from the BIS. Greetings. Really glad to be with you this evening. Have you managed to tear yourself away from the Soyuz lander, Steve? Which I've seen quite a few times now. Brendan, hello, popular astronomers. I currently like people from hotels. Jerry's in a hotel. I hope it's all going well for you, Jerry. I've been following you, and hopefully out of the hotel and somewhere a bit more lavish soon.
Yeah, Broadway's all right, actually. It's only about sort of like a 5-minute drive from where I live. So
you can take him a hot dinner round.
Yeah, if we weren't in lockdown, Jerry, I'd come and see you in the bar.
Oh, there you go. Right. Okay. So good evening, popular astronomers. So usually at this time of night, I plug the mug, but the mug isn't here. I don't have the SPA merch. Something has happened tonight. Now, if you've been following my tribulations, I live on just for bizarre circumstances beyond my control. I've been locking down on a holiday park with communal Wi-Fi, and to get decent Wi-Fi I've had to go down to some disused stable stroke laundrette. Freezing cold, the room is made out of glass, the internet is searingly quick because it's right by the exchange, but it is Stu, it's a nightmare. I've got to cart like a whole studio down there. It's 3 car loads, like backwards and forwards to the car, across not haunted, deserted, spooky holiday properties, and it just grinds you down. It's awful. Last week my heater broke, and last week but I love the SPA, and that's what you do as a volunteer, isn't it, Stu?
It's what you do as a volunteer. Yes, Vicky, absolutely, and we love you for it.
Oh, thank you. But what's happened tonight, and we didn't know the whole how many years have we been on this pitch here? A year now. That the engineers can turn up the communal Wi-Fi to particular transmitters. So I've got the studio built in my bedroom now, my former bedroom. I've turfed myself out into the box room. This double bedroom, which was mine, is now the studio. And they've turned the internet up to 8 megs, Stu. I've got 8 megs.
They'll be turned up to 11 soon.
Oh, yeah. Oh no, don't count. But this hopefully means that my internet should be good and crisp and I don't have to keep decamping. So, okay. So Kath has said, love your necklace, Vicky. And Cosmo, the telescope sloth, who is here, is also wearing a beautiful sundial strangulation necklace from the SPA. These would be a wonderful gift to buy from the Pop Astro merchandise store for Valentine's Day. Wouldn't that be lovely, Stu?
Oh, wouldn't that? Yes.
Wouldn't that be lovely?
They look very nice. Yeah.
They're good. Can you see what that is?
That's the analemma. Yeah.
It is. And that is trying to teach a sloth to use a sundial is way out of my pay grade, but he's wearing like a little sundial necklace that you look through, and apparently it aligns with the sun. But I've not tried it.
If you point it in the right direction, it aligns with the sun.
So, yeah. Something like that. Thank you for that. Astronomy 101.
That's the trick to sundials.
Do you know that they've all got a really depressing slogan written on them?
What, really?
All sundials have got a unique, very depressing slogan, like "Time flies" or like "You're gonna die soon" and that kind of stuff. They've got like "Tempest Fugit" and all that kind of stuff on them. So observe your sundials and see what morbid comment they have written on them.
I've gone off them now.
Very good. Very good. Now, Michael Barrett says, "Good evening, enjoying Stu's book Beneath the Sky. Brilliant piece of writing."
Michael, you are suddenly my favorite person. Thank you. Thank you, Michael. I really appreciate that.
If you're a good boy by the end of the show, you can show your book.
Well, I very nearly put it on my backdrop tonight, and then I thought, I couldn't be that crass. But
calm
it was
down.
You're not on the
close. You're not on the BBC with your books in the background. This is not a BBC interview.
It's much better than that.
Yeah. Oh, well, it is really. It's a lot more fun, and you certainly wouldn't get Nagamunchetti wearing one of these.
Or the stars on your cheek.
I found them before, so I thought I'd get them out. And hang on a minute, me lasers have gone off. Oh, I'll have to tamper with them when you're doing David's interview. So special guest tonight is David A. Hardy, space artist. He's been illustrating astronomy, science fiction, and space books since before the space age began. What a crazy world! And he calls himself the longest established living space artist in the West. There you go. Being first published in 1952, even before the SPA was founded. We're also joined by Eleni with space news, space weather, and maybe even space traffic and travel. And we have, of course, got Stu. Stu, last time I humiliated you and made you do an interpretive dance of Curiosity the Rover, didn't I?
Well, I'll be honest, Vicky, it's not the worst thing I've ever done in public. Perhaps one of the most unexpected things I've ever done in public. But yeah, not the worst.
I'd love to know. Right, have a think while we're chatting. What is the worst thing that you've ever done in public? And that can be a whole new broadcast. Astronomers and their public humiliations.
I will only tell you some of them, not my top three.
Oh, hang on, we've got a Lord on here. Lord Raymond Bill of Hogan Manor. Hi, Vicky and all SPA members. Looking forward to the show. That's lovely, Lord Raymond, should I say. And Sandra is saying, "Good evening, everybody." Oh, Kath is plugging the merch here. If the orders for jewellery come in this weekend, I can post them in time for Valentine's Day. Do you know what? I've got to say, it's really not difficult to mess up Valentine's Day, but it is just such a big tripwire for... I'm going to be... don't know whether this is sexist. A lot of blokes mess up Valentine's Day, Stu.
Oh, tell me about it.
There is a tripwire. There is a tripwire coming your way in a week or so's time, everybody. And all you've got to do is go to the SPA website, fill in some details, and just order that. And some flowers. And a cup, whatever else you buy on Valentine's Day. I'm out of practice. There is a tripwire looming. The SPA can prevent you from going over that tripwire.
This could be the best outcome of this whole thing this evening.
Yeah, this is going to... If you treat your missus, your star-loving missus, to one of these or the sundial necklace, you're not going to be getting cold-shouldered on Valentine's night. The SPA, there to help. Just call us the new Claire Rayner. Okay, so we have got something. Well, we're not doing it. It's in association with the Countryside Charity and supported by the British Astronomical Association. It is the star count. It's the best way to see what we can see in the sky. And if we count the stars, basically they're asking people from all across the country to become citizen scientists and look heavenwards from home for one night. Join in by choosing a clear night between the 6th and the 14th of February, looking up at the constellation of Orion and letting us know how many stars you can spot. What do you think of that, Stu?
Oh, I think it's a great idea. It's Orion is just so beautifully placed in the sky at the moment. It's just the most amazing constellation. No one here needs me to tell them that. But just this idea of getting people just to go out and look at it and have a count so that we can just do a bit of a survey of what light pollution is like and where people live. I mean, yeah, absolutely great idea.
Now, if you scroll back up to the top of the 3,000 comments that we've got, the very first comment is the link for the Orion Star Count with the Countryside charity. It's right there at the top on Facebook and YouTube. Just scroll back through the comments, sign up to do it as of tomorrow night. I think we might have some clear... Oh, I don't know what the weather is actually for the next couple of days. I know it's going to be cold, isn't it?
That's what I've heard. There'll be lots of... Sirius will be twinkling very well.
Scintillating. Okay, so Stu, have I introduced you to Cosmo the telescope sloth yet?
No, you haven't. I'm quite intrigued though.
Basically, is naughty little sloth who hangs from my telescope. He got abandoned here, and I've since adopted him and spaced him up. He's got a space badge on and a space necklace, and he goes around the universe going to intriguing places, and we've got to guess where he's been to. So it just think he's a bit like a cosmic version of Sooty, aren't you? And if he doesn't speak, we don't have to pay him any royalties, Stu.
Oh, that's the hang on. Royalties for speaking. It's the first time that's come up.
The check is in the post.
Thank you.
We've got Bob Anderson here. Hi, Vicky from young Bob Anderson, aged 81 in Paisley, Scotland. Hi, young Bob.
It's good to see you.
It is, yeah. My hubby has bought me the moon. I guess Sonia's husband has bought him a moon from the SPA website. Okay. Steve Salmon from the BIS. Yay, go David Hardy. FBIS. Yay. He's probably the BIS's longest standing fellow. That's a lot of initials in that.
Yeah. You should let him sit down.
Oh, very good. Very good. These are the jokes. Very good. Okay, now Cosmo has been to a place in the universe. It's quite close to home, relatively. So what we're going to do, this is kind of like our little game that we play. He's going to know, I've said this last time, he doesn't read out any clues at all. I read them out, but he tells me what they are. Are you ready for this?
Not really, but yeah.
The first person, just answer in the chat. The first person to guess does not win an interpretive dance from Stu. How's that for a top prize?
So we're all extremely grateful.
Okay, Cosmo, where have you been? We are inside the towering Building 29 at Goddard Space Flight Center. There's your first clue. And in the meanwhile, Vernon Alexander is saying, pleased to be here. So am I. Best night of the week for me, this, Stu, don't you reckon?
Absolutely. It's in my top one.
So we are inside the towering Building 29 at Goddard Space Flight Center. This is very intriguing, actually. The pressure is 10 billionth of an atmosphere, and helium is cooling this place to minus 250 degrees. Well, what could be happening that's at 10 billionth of an atmosphere and at 250 degrees? And if you were inside this, it would be bathed in infrared light with laser beams and shafts of light everywhere. So there you go. So they're your first clues. There's a couple of seconds delay while people get puzzled and decide what to write in the chat room. So where could we be? The VAB Vehicle Assembly Building. I don't know what VAB is. Oh, well, maybe, Steve, but what?
Vehicle Assembly Building. VAB.
That's the one I was thinking, oh, God, I don't know that. Showing my ignorance. What could we be assembling, though? It is the biggest. This is the giveaway now, isn't it, Cosmo? It is the biggest, most complex, and most expensive science mission that NASA has ever attempted. And your final clue is Cosmo has been molting and eating a jam sandwich in there, and it's really gone badly wrong. So where could we be? The biggest and most complex and most expensive science mission. Ooh, okay. The pressure is 10 billionth of an atmosphere, while helium cools it to minus 250, and it's bathed in infrared light. Where could we be? It's the biggest and most expensive project. What could it be? You're allowed to guess as well, Stu.
Well, there you go, Catherine. I'm going with Catherine.
Catherine got it right. We are inside the test chamber for the James Webb Telescope. How cool is that? What are your thoughts on that, Stu? On the James Webb? How anxious are you on a scale of 1 to 1 million about it?
Oh, more than that. I mean, my goodness me, if that doesn't work, I mean, and goodness me, I hope it does. If it works, it's amazing. If it doesn't, I mean, this is such a disaster. It's cost so much money that it's a day of reckoning if that doesn't go well. So
I can't imagine the stress of the poor people who are having to build that thing.
And that's part of the issue. It's just become so big. I'm tempted, to say too big, but then I remind myself of all the science that can potentially come out of that mission. And there's this other part of me that goes, do you know what? Such a big, risky thing for the potential rewards that you get. Maybe every now and again, it is worth slapping 10 billion on the table and saying, we're just going to go for it.
Oh, I like it. But Naughty Cosmo has been malting and eating a jam sandwich in there. So I'm sorry, Cosmo, but...
What have you just done to Cosmo?
He's just got a crick in his neck.
Oh.
He just asked me to do a bit of chiropractoring on him. He's all right. He's fine. Okay. You didn't see...
I thought he'd taken a bit of a turn just then. I thought this is...
He did slightly. Well, what would you do if you ate a jam sandwich near that mirror? You would expect to have your neck crick slightly, wouldn't you?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, now we're going over to our first guest of the evening. David, we're coming to you in a couple of seconds. Are you ready? In 3, 2, 1. Here he is.
I'm ready. I'm here.
Oh, hi,
hello, David.
Thank you.
Hi.
It's good to see you.
Just adjusting my iPad. There we go.
Good evening, Stu. Do you want to have a quick chat with David, and you can introduce him if you would like?
Oh, I'd absolutely love to. I mean, goodness me, David Hardy, living legend, space artist. There cannot be a single one of us on this chat tonight, I am sure, that does not have a piece of David Hardy artwork somewhere.
David, please.
Oh, sorry, David A. Hardy.
I was brought up.
David.
I was brought up with Arthur C. Clarke, so
Uh-huh.
Very nice. Very nice indeed.
So
yes. Tell us, David.
I was just going to show a couple of pictures, of David's artwork to get us warmed up. How's that?
Let's
so, David,
see them.
Good evening to you. Whereabouts are we speaking to you from tonight, David?
This is my studio where I paint.
Yeah.
You can just see a bit of a painting behind me of Jupiter. If I move, maybe, I don't know. Can I? No, it's a bit difficult. It's right there.
Excellent. Okay, well, we'll have a look at a couple of your pictures so people can relate to what we're talking about. Here we come. Oh, let's just alter the size of this window here. Can you see that?
Yeah.
What's this a picture of?
That's the first picture I did that got published in a local newspaper, but it's obviously a moon base. Unfortunately, you're losing a lot of it down at the bottom behind that.
Oh, there you go.
There we go. That's better. Yeah, it's 1952. I did that. I was 16 when I painted that, and
wow.
As you can see, it shows a spaceship landing on the moon with the Earth in the background in the sky. And there's a couple of domes, living domes, a couple of astronauts you can just about see near the centre left, and a big radio aerial kind of thing.
Do you still have the original of that, David?
Yeah, I've got that framed in the hall, actually, along with about a dozen other small 50s ones.
Okay, so next picture. Let's go to the next one. Wow, that's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the cover I did for the Junior Astronomical Society, which of course became the Society for Popular Astronomy.
Okay, next picture. How is that's a color version of it? Very nice.
Yeah, I did this in 2013 for SPAR, just to show how it's changed from the junior JAS days.
I thought this was a
I
lovely
see.
concept here, the way that it just changes across the image, and the way it updates everything into color. And
the black and white version was something called scraper board, and it's a white board coated with china clay and then with Indian ink. But this particular one has a texture on it, so it's actually, if you look at it closely, you'd see it's made of tiny dots. Look at the comet on the left there. You can just see it. That's when I scraped away the surface and left the white bits behind. So
that's pretty cool. Okay, thank you for telling us the technique that you use. Suns, Myths and Men. Patrick Moore, there we go.
That's the first book I illustrated, and obviously for Patrick Moore. A friend of mine, Michael Guest, had gone to visit Patrick in East Grinstead. Patrick had invited him down to see his telescope, because Michael had made a 6-inch reflecting telescope himself, and Patrick had invited him down to observe through his and generally chat. And Michael said, "Would you like me to take some of your pictures down to show Patrick in case you can use them for the book or something?" And the next thing I knew was that with a telegram from Patrick, obviously no email or anything in those days, a telegram saying, "Can you illustrate this book for me, Suns, Myths and Men? And if so, I'll send the manuscripts back with Michael." The snag was that I had to do 8 illustrations in 5 days before joining the Royal Air Force for national service, because I was 18 at that time. So I had to do 8 illustrations in 5 days, and I used scraper board for those as well.
Okay, next image. Oh, there we go. How's that?
I think we've lost David, haven't we?
He's frozen solid.
So, Vicky, how does it feel to be the person on the live stream tonight that doesn't have the worst internet?
I feel amazing, but bad for David. David, if you can hear us, I'll private chat him. Just bear with me. Hi, David. Hi, David. Please rejoin stream.
Let's anyone. So I actually don't recognize the person with Patrick in that image. So anyone? David. It's a picture of David by David.
I don't know. What do you reckon? I can't really tell. I don't really.
Anyone who's watching? David, come and enlighten us.
I'm still here.
Welcome back.
Hi, David.
David, who's in the picture? Tell us about this one.
That's Patrick and myself.
That is you.
That's Patrick and me. And what that is. It's a photograph of Patrick and myself, which I had taken against a black background. And I painted the Saturn's moon behind us. And we used this in our book, Challenge of the Stars, which was the first big book that we did together in 1972.
How many books did you do with Patrick?
How many books? I don't know. I've lost count, really. Quite a few. Maybe 7 or 8, something like that.
Next image. Oh, there we go.
Did you hear the end of my story about Sun, Myths and Men, how I want to go in the RAF National Service?
No, we missed that bit.
So I wonder how much you did hear.
I think we just got clipped off the bit about national service, maybe.
Yeah, my friend Michael took some work to show Patrick, and Patrick sent me a telegram saying he'd send back the manuscript with Michael. And I had to do 8 illustrations in 5 days before joining the RAF for national service. Fortunately, I got a couple of scraper board drawings, one of an observatory and one of an aurora, which I was able to use for the book. But I still had to do 6 paintings or 6 drawings before going down to join the RAF.
You must be a fast worker.
Yeah, I guess I am, really. So that's Futures.
What's this next one of, David, here? Futures,
you'll see it's subtitled Challenge of the Stars. So Challenge of the Stars was a book that Patrick and I did, as I said, in 1972. And it was really, it was supposed to be our British version of a book called The Conquest of Space, which was written by Willy Ley, German rocket scientist, and illustrated by Chesley Bonestell. Chesley Bonestell was the space artist, astronomical artist, who started it all off, really. He painted these most amazing photographic paintings. And in his book, The Conquest of Space, there's a section on the moon landscapes, there's a section on Mars, Venus, all the other planets. And they all look like, I showed my my art master at school. I said, and he said, well, they're photographs, aren't they? I said, well, they can't be photographs. We haven't been there yet. He said, well, if you want to paint like that, you'll just have to work at it. And I suppose that's what I did, really.
Chesley Bonestell was astonishing, wasn't he? Because he was a photorealistic artist. That I think he worked on concept paintings for the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco that they could show investors what they were going to get. That's
right. But also, I've sent Vicky a frame from Destination Moon, which was a film that Bonestell worked on to a large extent, doing moon landscapes, scenes in space, all sorts of things. I don't know what happened to that picture.
It might come up in a minute. I thought what we might do, Stu, if you want to start chatting with David and asking him some questions, and I can interject with the occasional picture. And I'll take the pictures off now, and there we go. How's that?
Fantastic. So we both have a very big love of Chesley Bonestell. I can tell. I'm fascinated to hear your thoughts on astronomical art and its place in the way we think about space, even today when there are NASA pictures everywhere and all these colorful nebulae and very high resolution stuff. The astronomical photography still has a central role to play, doesn't it?
Yeah, obviously I think space art, astronomical art is absolutely essential, because people see these pictures of Jupiter and Saturn and their moons taken from probes. They see pictures taken through telescopes. But I mean, apart from Apollo, we've had no men walking on the moon, and we've had a few landscapes of Mars taken by some of the probes, the rovers and so on. But generally speaking, the only way we can show what the planets and moons of the solar system and of other stars, extrasolar planets, exoplanets, the only way we can show what they probably look like is through art.
What about your training? We've got a question from David Arditi here. He'd like to know whether you studied at art college or taught yourself.
Basically, I'm self-taught. I went to grammar school at the age of 11 till 16. We had a good art class there, and I learned how to paint, I suppose, using what was poster color in those days, but it's basically acrylics type of thing, gouache. And but mostly I just looked at pictures by other people, by Bonestell, and non-space pictures, and painted myself, and did some outdoor paintings, and just generally learned how to do it, basically.
Learned by doing. Best way to be.
I did actually go, when I left school, I went to night school at the local, we had quite a good art college in Bourneville where I lived. In fact, I worked at Cadbury's for a while later on as well, doing chocolate boxes, but that's another story.
Sonia Turkington would love you to tell us what working with Patrick was like. I know for many of us, he has such a dear place, in our hearts. So tell us about, tell us about working with Patrick.
He was a wonderful chap to work with. I mean, be absolutely honest, I wouldn't be where I am today if it hadn't been for Patrick. If I hadn't made that first meeting, thanks to my friend, and if Patrick hadn't asked me to illustrate Sons, Myths and Men, I don't know. I suppose I would probably have met him eventually somewhere, but nothing would have worked out the way it has now. And he was wonderful to work with. I mean, he obviously knew that he could rely on me. He could tell me what he wanted. He could send me a letter with telling me what in some details of what he wanted, and he knew quite well that I would produce something which was what he wanted. So I mean, he's just a great chap.
Now, we first worked together, probably getting on for about 20 years ago. You illustrated a book of mine called Discovering the Universe. And it was so interesting for me because you were a very established name. I was very well aware of your art, and it was a little bit, daunting to be working in such circles with you. And one of the things that I was struck by all of our interactions was the enthusiasm that you still had for your subject, and it strikes me that you still have that same enthusiasm. What sort of ambitions do you have to do with your art now? What's giving you the most pleasure with that?
Ambitions, difficult to say, really. I mean, I would have liked to do more work with movies. I did a little. I did get asked to submit some work and possibly work on 2001: A Space Odyssey, and I got to work in Germany for 6 months on a film called The Never-Ending Story.
Tell us more about this. This is fascinating.
Well, I've got a German friend of mine, Uwe Lizerke. He often sold my work to German publishers for covers and so on, and he managed to get me this position with the producers of The Never-Ending Story. As I say, it's not space at all, really, but dragons and all sorts of things like that. But it was great fun to. I don't really speak very much German. My wife does; she speaks German quite well, but it was good for the both.
Nobody talks really about how tragic and how scarred a generation of children were when the horse died in Never-Ending Story. Pulling that horse from the mud was like,
yeah.
So did you help design the amazing floating dragon and Falcor, whatever his name was?
What I was doing is called production art or pre-production art. The artist has to produce really large paintings based on scenes that are given to him in the script, to show the people who are making the film what they're aiming for, what their scene should look like, and that's what a production artist does.
Great work. Well, I'm going to clear off again now. I just love Never-Ending Story. Yeah, it's not time to wrap up. Keep chatting. I just had to interject for that.
And yes, so Paul has got a great question here for you, David. How did photos from space probes change your perception, and did it change your sort of methodology or the types of art that you were producing at all?
Yeah, it made quite a big difference, but basically it was just enabling me to make my work more accurate, because when you get closer photographs of the craters of Mars, you're not going to paint Mars with a canal anymore, are you? And it's a pity that Vicky's not been able to show. It's a shame that Vicky hasn't been able to show some of these pictures I gave her yet, anyway, because that kind of thing is amongst them.
Okay, well, let's cut back to a few more pictures while you answer. What medium do you use, David?
Right, I started off using watercolor. But I found it always a bit wishy-washy, and I don't know, lost you again.
We're here.
Yeah, we're still here, David.
Okay. Yeah, as I say, in those days at school, you were given poster colors, little pots, of poster colors, and they are basically gouache, really. They're water-based, and you can thin them down quite a lot, or you can use them with white to give thick pictures. If you paint the background entirely black, as I quite often did, and then everything had to be painted on that with white and with colours, which of course obviously is ideal with space, because space is black as far as our eyes are concerned. Then later on I discovered real gouache, which in tubes, made by Winsor & Newton usually, and also acrylics came along. Acrylics have been the best because they're more like oils to use, but they dry much more quickly. That's a picture.
So tell us about this picture that we're looking at, David.
The picture you're looking at now is that how we used to think Venus might be, because we can, through a telescope, we can only see Venus as a white disk, and even when we got the probes there, what you can see is clouds and clouds. So underneath those clouds, there could be anything, and it could be, as I've got shown there, a prehistoric scene with swamps and flying animals and all sorts of things like that. Have you got the next picture, Vicky? The dust bowl
Yeah.
one?
Just to add to Venus very, very quickly is our dear friend Ian Nicholson. I can always remember him in one of my lessons. He was my lecturer. And he used to say about Venus that they knew it had a carbon dioxide atmosphere. They knew it was very dense. They thought possibly there could be, it could be water under those clouds and all the rest of it. And if the atmosphere were dense enough, perhaps it could even force some of that CO2 into the water. So it'd be quite nice sort of soda water. So the only thing, he said, that an astronaut would have to take to Venus to be happy was a bottle of scotch. Sadly, that's not the way reality turned out.
That would be some hangover on Venus after a bottle of whiskey.
I'm sure I've read that story, Hangover on Venus.
Oh,
tell us about the dust storm, David.
Anyway, when we had the first results back from probes, which showed there's no water in the atmosphere of Venus, and probably no oxygen either. But there was thought of very high winds, and so the next picture I did was to show that Venus is a kind of dust bowl with the wind blowing dust in all directions and eroding rocks into strange and weird shapes, as you see there. Somebody's asking me if I use an airbrush much in my work, which I do. Yes, for this picture here, all that background, all those wisps of cloud going across and so forth, they're all airbrushed.
How appropriate for a dust storm.
Whoa, now we're getting to the good stuff.
Yeah.
Wow, what is that?
The Space Hotel. I forget why I did it. It was commissioned by somebody, but it might have been Thomas Cook, actually, because for a while I was Thomas Cook's consultant on space tourism. Can you believe it? Thomas Cook's folded completely now, but anyway.
That might be why.
That's the Space Hotel with the ISS.
Vicky Duncalf, I can't believe you said that.
What's that? What did I miss there?
I was just a flippant comment.
Moving on. So is that the ISS sort of? It's an ISS-like space station, and then we get sort of much more futuristic.
Well, the ISS was in the background on the right there. The big space station consisted of a wheel rotating to produce centripetal force for artificial gravity. There you can see it's got the wheel at the top, and then we've got a huge zero gravity chamber. And then some of the other pictures. This was from a book called Galactic Tours. Actually, I don't think that picture was from Galactic Tours, but I did a book called Galactic Tours with Bob Shaw, the science fiction writer, who was another great chap to work with. And anyway, that's what that is. That's just an enormous space hotel with the ISS over on the right there, and a space shuttle, a rather super shuttle, I should say, not quite the one that we remember, but a much bigger version.
Wow, that's so good. That's so good. Okay, let's have a look next. That's good, isn't it?
So tell us about this one, David. Is this terraformed Mars?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. There's been lots of talk about Mars being almost Earth-like, except that it's very, very, very dry. Obviously, it's got a low gravity and it's got not much atmosphere at the moment. But if we were to, let's say, crash ice asteroids into it and let them melt and do various things like that, it wouldn't do a great deal of harm to the planet, really. But it would gradually, the ice would melt, and eventually you get oceans, as you see there, and clouds in the atmosphere. You can just see the three big volcanoes there across the middle of the picture. Olympus Mons up on the right there.
It's fascinating. I've just been writing a piece all about Mars cities, actually, and about the Mars Society's recent competition to ask teams to design a city for 1 million people on Mars. And the most amazing thing to me is that 175 teams from something like a dozen countries submitted plans to this competition, and some of them are highly technical and thought out. It's quite astonishing how much momentum and interest there is in this concept of settlement.
Can I just show you my hat?
Yes,
please do.
Let's see. Let's go full screen with David's hat. Hang on. How do we do this? Solar layout. There we go. Lowell Observatory, Flagstaff, Arizona. Yeah,
I actually went there. I went to the Lowell Observatory at Flagstaff, Arizona, and they let me look through the telescope through which Percival Lowell had observed Mars. I didn't see Mars. I saw a globular cluster actually, but I actually looked through the telescope that Percival Lowell had used.
Wow,
that's fantastic! And this brings us full circle back to talking about canals on Mars. So that will be the telescope that Percival Lowell saw the canals on Mars through.
Yeah.
Where are we now then?
That is Antares. It's an example of an exoplanet or extrasolar planet, and which consists of a red supergiant and a small, brilliant, bright blue-white star. If you can move down, Vicky, so as you can see a bit higher up in the picture. No.
Oh yeah. Oh, I see. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, you can see it's the blue star as well as a big red one. And it's obviously quite an Earth-like planet. It's got sky with clouds, and it's got waterfalls. That's the kind of painting I like doing best. Really, they're great fun.
That's beautiful. I love the way you've captured the light coming through the clouds from the blue star. Is so lifelike.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's an absolute beauty.
Thank you.
I think that might be the end of them. It seems like I've run out of arrows to press.
Yeah, the one you haven't shown, of course, is that one of Destination Moon, which I didn't do, but it was the thing that really started me off. Top left there.
Top left.
Yeah,
the guys in the coloured spacesuits.
That one. Oh, isn't that lovely? That's great. They don't look like models.
Well, that was 1950, and I was 14. And
14.
Yeah.
That's amazing. They look so 3D and real.
The mathematicians amongst you can work out how old I am, can't you? But my friend and I, Barry Soden and I, at school, we were both mad on science. We used to compete with each other to come first in chemistry, and we were fully believed that men would go to the moon, and of course all our school friends laughed at us and so on, but we had the last laugh, didn't we? But that's the scene from Destination Moon, and which we saw when we were 14, and we came out of the cinema feeling that we'd just been there. We really did. There was a lovely streamlined spaceship, which you can't see in that picture. Oh, you can see the bottom of it, called the Luna. And the whole thing was funded by a millionaire. His name wasn't Musk or Bezos or Branson, but you can see the way it would go, can't you?
It's quite astonishing, isn't it? That there in the 50s, they were imagining that this would be a sort of a private enterprise. And here we are today, working towards private companies taking over space exploration, really, from the larger space agencies. Unless we change.
I've been waiting for it, to be honest.
There's one question that I would like to ask you as well, because we've talked about Patrick Moore, but I believe you worked with Carl Sagan as well.
Woo, that is a big gun.
You can't get away with a one-word answer, for that one, David. You've got to elaborate.
I can't remember exactly how the sort of introduction came about, but I did quite a bit of work for America. I did covers for Analog magazine, fantasy and science fiction, all that kind of thing. So somehow or other, I got in touch with were you all right? or Carl got in touch with me, but he got me to do a cover for a book called A Pale Blue Dot. A pale blue dot, of course, being the Earth seen from far out in space. And
drop the mic.
The picture,
yeah, that's pretty impressive, David.
The picture he used for the cover of A Pale Blue Dot was actually one of my terraformed Mars. It wasn't the one we've just shown, I think, but it's a similar one.
Oh, wow. Thank you. I mean, the comments have been amazing. I don't think this might be our most commented upon guest that we've had, David. You have absolutely wowed us. So one last question from Sonia Turkington. Do you have anything else in the pipeline?
If I can just move a minute.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. It's just, we're getting outdone here, Stu. I've got a stuffed sloth, and he's got amazing artwork.
I've got nothing. I'm just sat in a chair. So
well, you're Stu Clark, so that's enough.
Please.
Oh wow! Look at that in the making.
Wow.
That is 36 inches by 22 foot by 3 foot, basically. I'll get it all back in there still.
That is wonderful, and I'm going to guess. What do you reckon that is, Stu?
Jupiter, and what are we on? Are we on Europa?
Yeah.
Looking at Jupiter.
Yeah, I've got to introduce.
Well done. You've won the painting, Stu. Well done.
It's very kind of you. Very kind. Speaking of, how do people get hold of your paintings, David? Do you sell originals? Do you sell prints? How do they find them?
I'm glad you asked that. They go to www.astroart.org. Very simple. Astro, as in astronomy, art as in art.org. And there you'll find...
I will post a link.
You'll find galaxies, you'll find galleries, rather, for all the planets, moon, or anything you want, really.
Expect a tremendous jump in sales as all of the popular astronomers race to your website to buy their beloved David A. Hardy artwork for Valentine's Day alongside Pop Astro merch. How's that?
Absolutely.
David,
and
it's been a wonderful pleasure.
saw it really has. And I saw there was a comment, and I can't see where it's gone now. Someone saying we should get you for Astrofest. So consider that. I will get that straight on the list for discussion for when we're live again next year at Kensington, because I'm sure we would love to have you, David.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, that's been a pleasure. Thank you, mate. Thank you, David. Thank you for all the hard effort that you've gone to helping us with the arrangement of the show as well. It's most appreciated. So, okay, off you go and have a Horlicks now. See you later.
Bye, David. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Oh, wonder how much his paintings are. That's all we wanted to ask, isn't it?
Another solution to Valentine's.
Yeah. If you really love somebody, buy a David A. Hardy artwork. Wow, absolutely. Oh, hang on. Never heard that noise before. I guess the battery's just gone in my headphones. Let me just switch my my Bluetooth headphones off. Bluetooth. I think you might come out my... You're coming out my speakers now. Oh, so great. That was wonderful, wasn't it? So where are we up to with the show? Let me get the running order back up on my screen. Gosh, there's a lot going on this evening. Now then, we are going to go over to Eleni, who has been waiting so wonderfully patiently in our in the green room, if she's still there. Have you met Eleni yet before, Stu?
No, I haven't. I'm really looking forward to it.
Hello.
Hi.
Nice to see you.
Hello. Nice to meet you too. Well, virtually meet you, I guess.
This is what reality is these days, or normality. This is how we meet people.
It's better than nothing.
Yeah, that's
very,
so true.
Very true.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, this software that I'm using now has only been invented for like very recently. And I guess Zoom isn't really that old. So thank God. Thank God.
Yeah, it's not hanging out in the pub, but it's better than, sitting alone and crying on the sofa,
So, Eleni, you are going to give us space news, space weather, and space traffic and travel.
I will indeed. Let me make that a nice big screen for you guys, and let me do that.
Screen share. Let's have a look.
How does it look?
Whoa. Okay, here we go. It looks. Let me just have a.
Does it show?
Stop screen. Yeah, it's coming now.
Perfect.
There we go. And you can have center stage.
Oh, nice. That's a privilege. All right, then. So we'll start off with the secrets of 3,000 galaxies laid bare. So this one comes from University of Sydney, and it's quite an impressive 7-year-long project, which essentially collected data from actually 3,068 galaxies. And the work was done using SAMI, which is a spectrograph connected to the Anglo-Australian telescope in New South Wales. So it's quite an impressive feat of data gathering. And the way it was done, it basically observed 13 galaxies at a time, eventually building up to a total of 3,068 galaxies. And this is amazing because it's going to offer a wealth of data on how galaxies interact with one another and the dynamics and mechanics of galaxies, how they grow, how they speed up or slow down over time, and a lot of other interesting things about galaxy lifetime. So something to look forward to as future generations of astronomers. They will have a lot of data to play with, which is nice. And moving on from that, the next one I think is an amazing piece of news, and it highlights how important citizen science is in modern day astronomy. So this is about revealing the identity of a very mysterious gamma ray source. So the object was known since 2014, and it was a source of X-rays, gamma rays, and light. And here in this picture, we have an artist's impression of PSR J20395617, which is the name of the object, which I'll say what it is in a second, and its companion star on the left here. So people knew what it was. I guess astronomers rather knew of it for a while, but there wasn't enough computational power available or time available to actually do a very targeted study on it and find out more about it or confirm what it is. And that's where Einstein at Home came in, which is a citizen science project, and it involved tens of thousands of volunteers, and it's those people that actually helped astronomers identify this as a pulsar. So a pulsar is a rapidly rotating neutron star, and this one in particular rotates at 377 times per second. And I think it's really important to highlight how, citizen science helps professional astronomy, and there's more examples of this as we go on, and hopefully we will see more of this type of collaborations. And I will finish off with space weather and space traffic news. So watch out for an aurora tomorrow. It should appear, or might appear, hopefully it will, late in the evening. So yeah, keep an eye out if you are close to the poles. And finally, it's 13 days left until the landing of Perseverance. So that's amazing, right? 13 days left. So that's something to put on your calendars. I've definitely put it in my calendar. So Perseverance is about 446 million kilometers away from us as we're speaking. And it's got about 24 million kilometers left until it reaches Mars. So yeah, hopefully I will give you an update next week as well on that one, just looking at that clock ticking. Yeah, that's me.
Oh, thank you so much for the space weather, the space news, and the space traffic and travel. It's just wonderful. It works beautifully, Eleni. Thank you to go into all the
Lovely.
effort.
I really enjoy it, so I hope that I can pass it on to other people and they enjoy it as well.
Oh, thank you. Yes, tell all your friends about the show, and we'll see you next week. Thank you so much.
See you next week. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Did you like the new space traffic and travel feature, Stu?
Absolutely loved it. It's essential, to be honest. Yes.
You need to know
absolutely.
what the freeways are doing in space at all times.
That's fine. It's getting very crowded up there. It really is.
Actually, it is, isn't it? And do you know, I hate to say this, but with my poor internet here, when I see Starlink go over, I'm like, oh, God, what would happen to me? Would I be a hypocrite if I got it?
Would you? You're like, bring it on. Yeah.
In secret, I might be like, hurry up. Well, yeah. So, and then I just feel like I'm supporting. Yeah, I get a big
It's very
confusion.
difficult, isn't it? You know, it's very difficult. As astronomers, we no longer have sole stewardship of the night sky. You know, there's now lots of competing interests, and you know, we need to engage with these companies and these people, and they seem to be open to that, so that we can try and you know, realize that we have to share, and that these things have to happen, but that we minimize the any egregious damage as much as possible.
I like that, and I would never ever use the word egregious in a sentence. So you've won this evening.
It's what I do.
It is, isn't it? Big words, big words. So Cosmo has been somewhere else. Cosmo, I'm realizing that this is starting to look like the Sooty Show, but it's a sloth, so you can't do with copyright. The Corbett Corporation. So Cosmo is now going to tell us where he's been. To be fair, I've got to screw him in a ball. He's looking a bit crushed. It must have been heavy going where he's been. Answer in the comments if you think you know where Cosmo's been. Now, he has been visiting an object that's about 20 kilometers. That's 12 miles in diameter. So what could that be? There's your first clue. He smells of lavender. Okay. This object, about 12 miles or 20 kilometers, it's got a mass of about 1.4 solar masses. I'm starting to narrow it down now, Stu. What are your thoughts what it might be? Go on.
Well, you're on a neutron star?
Ooh, no. It's a trick question.
Oh, it's a trick question.
The density of the interior, he says, is such that a tablespoon of its substance would have a mass of over 100 million tons. Cosmo says that's really, really heavy and you wouldn't want to drop it on your toe. You would swear. Okay. Ian says black hole. Wrong, Ian, wrong. But good guess, good guess. And this is the final. Let's have a look. Yeah, James is also saying a black hole. It's not a black hole. When Perseverance lands on Mars, and so will I. My name is on the rover, as well as Phoebe, my granddaughter. That's a lovely touch, isn't it? Isn't it, Stu?
That's really nice.
Very sweet. Have you got your name on any of those probes, Stu?
Not intentionally.
Okay, and then the final clue. This curious object that Cosmo has visited, he says to me that it's a likely explanation for soft gamma repeaters and anomalous X-ray pulsars and the source, possibly, of fast radio bursts. What do you think it could be? The FRBs, the SGR, soft gamma repeaters, and X-ray pulsars. And it's not a neutron star, and it's not a black hole. So what could it be? Have you got an intelligent guess, anybody? What do you reckon, Stu?
Well, I'd still put my money on a neutron star.
It's one up from a neutron star.
One up from a neutron star.
Well, I think it's one up. Bit of one-upmanship going on here.
You're not thinking...
Oh, David got it right. David Deegan, well done. It's a magnetar.
Oh, well, that's a highly magnetized neutron star.
Well, yeah, okay. Yeah, all right then. But sorry, judge's decision is final here, and of course you were correct.
David's the winner.
Cosmo doesn't know his magnetars from his neutron stars. You'll have to forgive him. Stupid. Stu, you have just been published in The Guardian, which I think is quite impressive. Tell us what you've just done in The Guardian.
Oh, it was a lovely piece in that I got the opportunity to sort of delve into this concept of planetary protection. and really look at it and sort of say, why do we want to protect planets, from biological contamination? And I came across all sorts of different concepts about this and sort of ideas about whether this was a good thing, whether it was a bad thing, whether we need to increase how much protection we put, maybe even restricting exploration, or whether we should just let it all go and just all do whatever we want in space. So it was a fascinating piece that was published last Sunday in the Observer. Yeah.
So what's your slant on the potential pollution of pristine habitats like Mars?
Yeah, this is super interesting because it seems like a no-brainer. We really do not want to take any sort of earthly bacteria up to Mars, and then it perhaps gets a purchase on the surface there, and competes with and maybe overruns any existing Martian life that's there. So we just do not want to do that, because the loss to science, if we were to do that, would be incalculable. If we find life on Mars, the value of that discovery is just, to coin a phrase, astronomical. The chemical composition of the life there would tell us, whether life can have a separate origin from the DNA on Earth. If Mars life is made of DNA, though, that's really interesting. Do we then have a common ancestry between Earth and Mars? And that's interesting from the planetary protection point of view, because we know that there have been all these meteorites that have come from Mars to Earth and from Earth to Mars. They don't respect planetary protection protocols. So bacteria could potentially have lived in those meteorites and, cross-fertilized the different planets. So there's, so that leads to school of thought from some people that we shouldn't bother about planetary protection. You go there and do your science experiments. That's a long time before you go there to colonize or something like that. You do all the work that you want to do in advance, sterilize your spacecraft, and do everything necessary so that you can be certain that if you're detecting life on Mars, you haven't brought it with you. But then all bets are off. Once you've done that analysis, all bets are off, and that you go there and you colonize freely. And other people are saying, actually, do we even have the right to go and colonize Mars? That's a big, that is a big debate now. And what do we want to do about this movement into space, especially with the private companies and such coming along? None of the planetary protection guidelines are international laws. They're just that, guidelines that the space agencies sign up to, because it seems like common sense. Private companies aren't restricted by those guidelines, so they can disregard them if they want. So we need to have this conversation, and now is the time to say, what are our priorities in space? How much do we want to protect the environment of space? And then we can roll into that, not just the concepts of planetary protection biologically, but also space debris or Starlink and the loss of the night sky and things like that. And yeah, as Steve says here, wouldn't it just be typical if we infected Mars with COVID? And that's the kind of thing. We don't want to stumble into doing that. If we decide that we don't care, that's one thing, but at least we'll have had that discussion and come to that sort of decision and consensus. So I think this is going to be a really interesting field to watch as the next sort of 5-10 years develop, and we start to see more and more exploration and more human exploration of the solar system.
So Catherine here asks Stu, it's good this, I don't have to think of questions. Question for Stu, do you think that NASA is moving too slowly in the search for life on Mars? They've done very little since Viking landers.
Yeah, it's a great question, Catherine. And I was really surprised by the answer to this. The reason that NASA has not searched for life on Mars, after Viking, is because the planetary protection protocols says that they cannot send a spacecraft to anywhere on Mars that appears likely to hold life. You cannot do it because because you can't sterilize the spacecraft completely. So the danger of sending it to an area where there's potentially water close to the surface and the potential for the introduction of stray bacteria from Earth into there is deemed so large that you're not allowed to go to those places. So if we're going to really properly search for life on these planets, we either have to change the protocols of planetary protection, or there's one possibility that I want to mention, and I didn't do this in the article for The Guardian, but I'm looking into it to do it for somewhere else. Okay. And that's looking for life from orbit. Now it sounds crackers, but life is all based on these chiral molecules. The amino acids that make up our proteins all have a sense of handedness about them. Yeah, they can be left or they can be right-handed. So I've got all the same fingers on both hands, but they're mirror images of one another. And in life on Earth, life it only works because all the amino acids are left-handed. All our sugars are right-handed.
They can't open tins then. The writing.
Be a nightmare. So there are instruments, or the chiral molecules interfere with light. They interact differently depending on what chirality. Okay. And there are instruments. I used to work with these instruments when I was doing my research at university, called polarimeters. And they can discriminate the kind of light signature that tells you that you've got chiral molecular interactions. And I know that some of the people that developed those instruments back at the University of Hertfordshire have thought about turning them into cameras for spacecraft that could look for big areas of chiral molecules. So instead of sending a rover to pick a sample and do an experiment, you just map the Mars from orbit with a circular polarimeter and see if you get any large spread areas of chirality, and that is where you probably have life.
Okay, Steve says even tardigrades can survive in the vacuum of space, but they are really cute. So it would be very easy to bring life to Mars, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, Steve. It's this is one of the things that those the tardigrades that were taken to the moon by the Israeli lander, and that it crashed on the moon. But there's probably tardigrades on the moon, in the wreckage of that spacecraft now. Oh, there we go, David. Thank you for backing me up on that one.
Yeah, right.
See,
okay.
I don't just make it up.
Now, spacecraft hygiene, how do they go about sterilizing? Do they just put a mask on Curiosity?
Yeah. So there's certain things that you can do, like you bake the spacecraft to 500 degrees or something like that.
That sounds like a terrible recipe for Mary Berry. Yeah,
it's just you just don't see that on Bake Off. It doesn't go well. It also, of course, it doesn't work for humans. That's a well, it could, but you wouldn't get much out of them when you're finished. Or chemicals, you sort of swab the spacecraft down with chemicals. So that's the way that you do it. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So, what are your thoughts if you had to put all of your money in a David A. Hardy painting on life on Mars or not, and your house unclothed?
Goodness me. Probably something. Let's say that. Yeah, probably something microbial, clinging on. And if I could choose, I'd hope for a completely different origin of life. So life not based on DNA, but some other genetic molecule.
Right-handed aliens that can open a can.
Something like that, yes.
Yeah.
The reason I would want for that is because it shows you that life can develop from two separate origin events. And if it does that in two places in a single solar system, the first place you've ever looked, it increases the chance hugely, I think, for life elsewhere in the galaxy, in the universe.
One final question from Sonia. If you had the chance to go to Mars, would you? Right now, on and off, I've lived in a caravan for 7 years, right? And when I went to the Space Centre in Leicester, they've got a segment of like a mock-up of the ISS. And you know what? It's identical dimensions to a static caravan. It's like a steel box tube, except it's got no soft furnishings. It's just full of buttons. And I can tell you, after an afternoon spent in a caravan when it's raining, we all know how quickly that pressure, that cabin fever gets to you. And I just wouldn't like to be in a caravan, a space caravan with no cushions for the best part of a year and a half, 2 years. So I'm definitely not going to Mars. It would just be awful. What do you reckon?
Well, I get it, actually. I really do. Having said that, I mean, the designs for this Mars city that I've been looking at this week, it's called NUWA, N-U-W-A. And it's an idea that comes from the Sustainable Off-World Network. So SONET is the name that they go under. I mean, goodness me, it's a beautiful, beautiful city, and the design. So if I could sort of be magically transported to that, I probably wouldn't mind.
Oh, right. Okay. So it's not Milton Keynes then?
It is not Milton Keynes. No, by a long way, it's not Milton Keynes.
Oh, well, I'm looking. Let's go, Stu. Let's go. Right. Okay. It's been a wonderful show this evening. Please share the video. The SPA is all about getting new members. So every time you hit share, if you share, you care. It pumps this video out. It helps our algorithms, and new people can latch onto the wonderful world of astronomy and learn about the SPA and rewatch the broadcast with David A. Hardy, his amazing space art. They can be introduced to Cosmo, to Eleni, and of course to Stu, my wonderful co-host for the evening.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me, Vicky. It's just so lovely to see everyone in the comments again. It's just, it's great. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Now, usually there's a lag of about 20 seconds before the last comments come in, and I switch it off and all the comments flood up. So if you're going to say anything, say it right now and we'll flash your last comments up. And in the meanwhile, Stu's going to do an interpretive dance.
No, I'm not.
But thank you to everybody who's commented. Valentine's bling is available in the SPA shop. The tripwire of Valentine's Day is looming. Don't mess it up. Just don't. What's one of the worst things you can do? I just need to go outside, love, and write your card. Can you leave the room while I write your card? I thought you said you didn't want anything.
I've used every single one of those.
Oh God, yeah, I've had it. I've had every single one of them used. Look, every single woman, it doesn't matter what she says. It's fine. I don't want anything. No, I don't want anything. It's fine. Yeah, it's all right. Yeah, just some flowers. Yeah. She wants you to throw the works at her, and vice versa for the lads as well. It's something nice. We want the work. So it's looming. The tripwire is coming. It's a ruse when we say we don't want anything. Stu, are you taking advice here, Stu?
I'm taking notes. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you for a brilliant hour. Thank you, Sandra Grace. Thank you. Jerry is co-hosting a symposium in March on Mars and the asteroid belt development. Okay, Jerry, that sounds great. Steve, lovely to have you
I'd
along.
like to hear more about that, Jerry.
Oh, there you go. There we go. Well, you can go and stand outside his hotel and shout out the window. Thanks so much for this evening's great session. Looking forward to the next one. Steve, it's wonderful to have somebody from the BIS with us. Paul says, I'm crying. Why are you crying, Paul? Space Badger, as I've nicknamed him. Suits him, doesn't it? Paul Sutherland, Space Badger, don't you reckon, Stu?
I thought you meant it suited him that he was crying for a minute.
Well, yeah, making badgers cry. It's just part of the day job. Valentine's, like spaceflight, always have contingency backup. Yes, please do. Okay, everybody. It's been, do you know, at the end of this show, I always want to just say good night, God bless, but let's not say that.
We'll just say good night then.
Clear skies and apple pies from Vicky, Cosmo, Stu, David and Eleni, and see you all next week. Thank you. Oh, next week's guests are Ian Ridpath on the history of space doodles and astronomy Google Doodles. That's good, isn't it? And Mattia Isidro on the SKA becoming a formal observatory. Big news for this huge organization. It's kind of getting formalized. So that's wonderful. So there we go. Catch you all later. Good night.
Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.